So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mom for a second. For more than a second. But he's going to talk a little bit about his journey throughout this year. Mom has spent this year focusing on artificial intelligence, and more recently has created come across a new curiosity for clean energy as well as starting companies. So a quick round of applause for Mom.
So this picture you see here is from our family's recent trip to New York, where we did all the standard things. We went out to the fancy restaurants, we saw all the standard touristy sites, and yet the one moment that I remember the most, it's not any of these glamorous details. In fact, it's this one night where we were in Times Square and we were returning from this restaurant, and all around me there were these huge lights, these people walking around with so much money, all these advertisements, and yet one thing didn't fit the rest of this picture. I saw this one woman laying by the side of the streets, crying, and she was one of the thousands of homeless in New York. And I distinctly remember feeling awful about her situation, and yet I didn't stop to help her. And neither did any of the other thousands that just walked by. So often in life do we see these immense problems like homelessness, and we're more than aware of all the gruesome details, and yet we don't stop to take an action. But today, I want to tell you the story of one time where that wasn't the case, and it started with these amazing people. We were thinking about the past year at TKS. We've been learning about these incredible technologies that have the power to shape the world, and at the same time, there were all these major issues that impacted millions, if not billions of people. And we thought, given this new knowledge we have, don't we owe it to the rest of the world to at least try and make a difference in this? And the one problem we were most passionate about, it was looking at how insects transmitted diseases across hundreds of millions every single year. And this problem, it was one that mostly professional researchers were working on, and they'd been at it for decades. And here we were, with some of us not even in high school. But to us, that problem didn't look all that different 40 years ago than it does now. So we thought, we're not going to let our age be the thing that stops us from making a difference. And sooner than we could ever have imagined, this crazy idea, it turned into our first company. And of course, along the way, there were so many challenges. Times where we'd be working on one issue for weeks on end, staying up late nights, trying to meet deadlines. And time again, it felt like every single time we would just go on to fail. Why were we even doing this crazy thing that no other 15-year-old would ever be thinking about? But then, time and time again, it was that last extra bit of effort the night before that got us to our solutions. And Paige is going to come up here later to tell you about what we did, but for me, what mattered more than what we did, it was how we did it. It was the growth and the change in mindset that allowed us to take on this crazy issue. And of course, this new kind of mindset, it was really hard to get to at first, but even in something as simple as our notebooks here at TKS, our mindset is reflected with these simple words: create the future. Well, if there's one thing I've realized over the past 10 months, it's that the future is coming, and it's coming faster than we can ever imagine. So we need to act right now to make it the future we want. And yet, when I first started at TKS, I had no idea what my future, of even the next month, would look like. When I started, TKS was just another one of the endless extracurriculars to tick off that giant checklist. And back then, all success meant was doing well in school, test after test, working to get that magical number closer to 100, and then somehow the future would sort itself out, and I'd go on to be successful. But then one thing Naveed said, the co-founder of TKS, that completely changed my mindset. It was, to say you do get 100%. All you're doing is being the best at being average. And think about that, being the best at being average. All the school system is meant to do is compare you towards whatever this normal looks like. And say you do a little bit better than normal. All you're doing is repeating the same thing again and again. And in the end, what happens when you go on to this future where you don't have this magical number to guide your expectations, when you don't have these rubrics and checklists to follow, what do you do then? What I realized was that I had no idea what success actually meant to me. And in continuously chasing this 100%, I wasn't living 100%. And to bring about this change where I actually redefined what my goals were, my entire values, it was a scary process. It was hard to say that suddenly I wanted to be the one who was going off in my own direction instead of sticking with this crowd. And yet, this process of thinking, I don't want to anymore think about what the next day looks like and how I can improve something by 10%, and instead I want to focus on the future, how I can revolutionize something by 10 times. But think about all the successful people in our society, the visionaries. They're not the ones following along with the rest of the crowd. They're the ones going off in their own direction, setting their own goals and defining their own success. And I can summarize that with a simple example. What does it take to be that one guy out in front of everyone else? At first, it seems immediately obvious. Obviously, you just work harder, you train more, you practice more, and that gets you to your destination. But then, if I think about it some more, what stands out to me is that this one guy, he must really be dedicated to what he does. And he must love his goal enough to the point where, when it came to the last 100 meters, he was always pushing. And in the end, it was that last extra bit of effort when he gave it his all, which got him over his competition. And here's the thing, unless we're passionate about our goals, unless we're chasing what we love, we fundamentally cannot give it our all, knowing that in the end we just might fail. And if life was like this race, that magical destination at the end, it really wouldn't matter as much as we make it out to be. What matters more than that finish line is every single moment along the way when we go from one point to the next. And I know we've all heard it before, like the journey is more important than the destination, and it seems so cliche, but I can honestly say I was lucky enough to realize the wisdom of this saying. And it's literally the best day I can remember of my life. And it started with me and my friend deciding that we wanted to go to Toronto for this job fair. And we'd never been to another city by ourselves. But that being said, we had everything planned out. We had the bus schedules, the emergency phone numbers. And then the day of, there was this huge thunderstorm and all the buses were delayed. By the time we got to Toronto, we had 15 minutes to talk to everyone before we had to leave. And on our way back, we got lost, we got stuck in the rain, we missed our bus, and I know what you're thinking, what is wrong with you? How is that the best day of your life? But what mattered on that day, it wasn't the fact that we kind of failed at getting to our destination. What mattered was every single moment in the journey along the way where I had this incredible person right next to me, going through the exact same challenges, and yet, for whatever reason, we were just happy to be there. And this kind of idea, it seems to contradict what I said earlier. Like, if you want to be successful, you have to think in the long term, you have to create the future. But then at the same time, you can't ever predict that future. You can't predict the destinations. You have to think right now, how do I focus on the present journey and make the most of it? And these two ideas, they just didn't go together. And I thought about it more and more. And when I look back at historical context, I realized that from looking at others' past success, these two ideas, they fit together more than they seem to. And I know we all love history, so here's my last story for you to prove my points. This is Isambard Renault, one of the greatest engineers of all time. In the 1800s, when the North American continent was first being developed, he was at the forefront of creating railways, building bridges, connecting the entire continent. But if you asked him, why are you doing this? Why is it so important that there's new land that no one's ever explored before? Why is that your journey? He didn't know what would come in the future. He didn't know what even the next decades would come to be of this new land. And yet, for whatever reason, he just knew every step along the way it was so important that he get there. And in the end, that's what made him successful, being able to see that future as incomplete as it may be, but then reflecting on that each step along the way in his journey. And that's what reminds me of my journey at TKS. When I started, it was literally just a fluke. I had no idea what was to come. And yet, what was more important than that destination that was so unclear was every single moment along the way, challenge after challenge, running with these incredible people right next to me. And if you ask me, how much potential do they hold? I literally couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you which incredible problems they're going to go on solve within the next 5 years, because when it comes to these monumental issues like homelessness, it seems like any one person could never make a difference in that distant future, that destination that's unclear. And yet, in the moments, every step along the way, in that journey, it's that one person who makes all the difference. It's that one woman laying by the side of the streets. And she's the reason why I choose to be here, telling you her story today. Because in the end, I can't control that future, I can't even see, but I can control my journey along the way. So why not make it a journey